Hello, and welcome to the PMG configuration tutorial for building a form and workflow. In this video, we will walk through a simple application for managing new contractors. Information about a person will be collected on a form, submitted for approval, and then created in Active Directory. This tutorial provides some basic concepts of the digital business platform, allowing administrators to quickly configure a user experience, streamline a process, and integrate with an external system, all without code. Let's get started. First, under Administration, in the top right of the landing screen, click on New Form. This will bring you to a configuration page for creating a form. You will need to enter in a service ID as the unique identifier for this form. Enter in a title and a description that will be displayed to the end users. Additional information such as keywords, SLAs, images, and permissions can be managed here as well. Click on the Questions tab to get started adding form elements. As the focus of this application is to create new contractors, we will want to first collect information required for creating an account in Active Directory. Clicking on Add Form Element allows you to incorporate various types of information. Here, we have added text boxes to collect first name, last name, and email address. We will also add an Active Directory lookup to search for the contractor's manager, as well as adding in a start date and an end date. Finally, we will add a form element for role. It'll be a select list that you can either enter in data separated by a comma or query a database table. Here is a simple table called roles that we will be able to query directly from the form. On the Select List form element, click on the pop-up window icon and enter in PMG custom data for the data source, followed by the query select role name from roles. This will query directly from the table. Click Save and View, and we can now take a look at the form. We'll want to update this manager question to display in more business-friendly terms. Click on the Edit button beside the word Manager, and we can now make updates directly to this question. We can make it required, we can add some hover text, and we can also update the labels and what data is displayed to the end user. Click Save, and your form is ready to go. Now to create the workflow. Underneath Administrator, click on Workflow Designer. Click New Workflow, enter in a name, keep type as service, then click Save. Here in the PMG Workflow Designer, you have a blank canvas to configure exactly what you want to occur. To start, let's just add a status step. On the left-hand side, type in status and then drag and drop the Update Status action onto the canvas. Click and hold in the middle of the start step to drag an arrow to the Update Status action. These arrows are used to determine the path of the workflow. To configure each action, select it, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the different property values that can be updated. For a status step, we'll just add some text. We can also add some dynamic information, like the request ID number. To do so, click on the Edit icon next to Status. Click on Workflow Data, and you can now pull dynamic information. In this case, look under Request and grab Request ID. This will now dynamically populate every time the workflow runs. Let's do a quick check. Go ahead and deploy this workflow by clicking on Deploy New Version. The workflow is now ready to run. Go back to our form, put in Edit mode, then scroll down to the bottom. Here under Workflow, choose the name of the workflow we just created. Update order type to instant, then click Save. Go ahead and fill out your first form. Click Submit, and this will kick off the workflow we just created. By clicking Process Details, it'll pull up the workflow that ran. It's just a status step so far, so let's start adding to it. Let's map the form to the workflow. To do so, click on Linked Forms, and then choose the name of the form we created. This will now allow any information on that form to be used in the workflow. Let's add an approval step. Search for approval, then drag and drop the action onto the canvas. On the right-hand side, you can add a property label, as well as assign an actor. In this case, set the property to email, and then under value or variable, you will now see the questions that were pulled over from the form. Choose manager's email. We can also set up an email to notify the approver. To do so, drag over an email action. Connect with an arrow, then right-click the arrow and choose Assign. This means that the email action will be kicked off as soon as the approver is assigned. Under the properties, update send to work assignees to yes. Go ahead and add a label, and then under email template, choose approval. You can create your own email templates with images, links, and custom HTML. For now, just use the approval template already created. Add a subject as well as body text for the email. Remember, you can map in information from the form. Now, let's add the action that's going to integrate with Active Directory and create the new contractor. Back in the action palette, search and drag out Create AD User. To create an account in Active Directory, certain fields are required. These are populated under the Properties section. The first property is Domain Scenario. This allows you to update multiple domains. For this environment, go ahead and click on the Edit button, then press Control-Space. This is a hot link to all the variables that are available to you. I've already created one called Domain. Choose it. The same can be done for Parent Distinguished Name. Click on the Edit button, and then Control-Space, and choose Distinguished Name. For the other properties, we'll want to map in the information we collected on the form. So for each of the properties, click on the Edit button, and then choose the workflow data that's associated with each, such as first name and last name. You can also use the hotkey, Control-Space, and start typing in the name of the variable you'd like to populate in the property. For display name, I'll choose first name dot last name. For UPN, I'll map in email. For SAM account name, I'll use first name dot last name again. Here, I'll add in a password. Now typically you'd want this to be something dynamic, but for this case, we'll just enter in something easy to remember. Every new contractor will have the same password. The last action we will add is the finish marker. This will indicate that the workflow is now complete. Click on Deploy New Version and we'll be ready to execute the workflow again. Now back to our form. Go ahead and fill out information for the new contractor. By checking the process details, we can see the workflow in flight. It's currently waiting on an approval. Under my dashboard, I can now see that I have an approval waiting on me. Once approved, the workflow will continue. I can check the process details and see that the AD account was created as well as the finish marker being reached. As a check, go back to the new contractor form you created and under Manager, search for that new user that was just entered. Congratulations! You've just created your first application with PMG's digital business platform.